Hey everybody, how is it going? This is me, atypicalNerd, and welcome to yet another After Effects tutorial. So today we are going to work on audio, music visualizers or visualizers which react to any kind of audio. So this is the ultimate tutorial for beginners who don't know how to make audio visualizers and don't know the concept behind it, to a little bit in advance where it is a little bit more difficult. So first of all, let's start with what prerequisite knowledge you need. You need a basic knowledge of After Effects. You need to know some basic tools, how to apply effects, layers, and in general all the basics After Effects tutorials. I mean, if you don't know, you can just search online. There are thousands of good tutorials available where you can learn the basic of After Effects, but I assume you know the basics of After Effects. So first of all, let's get started. What is an audio visualizer? An audio visualizer is a visual which reacts to the audio, a visual which is controlled by the audio. So for example, if you have, let's say, a line which is moving, which is changing its shape according to the audio, so whenever the audio flares up, the line flares up as well. So you must have seen it in music videos, lyrics videos, or things like Hardwell on Air and stuff like that. So let's get right into it without further ado. So let's make a new composition. I'm making it 1280 by 720, but you can make whatever you want. Now we are going to make a new solid, and it can be any color because we can change it later. Now go to Effect, Generate, and click Audio Spectrum. Now an audio spectrum, what it will do is it will generate dots on the screen. Now these dots are lines, and they will change their lengths according to the frequency of the audio. So now we need a track which it can react to. So this is a track given to me by my friend. Bring it into After Effects and put it in whatever layer you want to. Now in the audio layer option, go ahead and select the track which you imported, and now the lines should react to the audio. Okay, so now to make it a little bit pretty, we can change the color of the visualizer by going into inside color and outside color. I'm just going to play around with this till I find something good. Okay, that should do, but now it's not visible and we need a little bit of a better background. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new solid of a darker color behind it so we can see it properly. We can also change the maximum height and minimum height for every frequency. So it will go higher or become longer for higher volume and higher frequencies. So as you can see, if I manipulate it, the lines are becoming longer for the higher frequencies and longer for the a little bit longer for the shorter frequencies as well. Now you can also change the thickness of the lines to make them a little bit thicker, and I see it looks a lot better this way, so I'm going to leave it like that. In display options, you have 3 different styles for display. So I'm changing it from digital to analog. So now it's just one line which is fluctuating according to the audio instead of bars. So this also is a very interesting effect. It looks like a heart rate monitor now. Now there is a third display option called analog dots. What this basically does is removes the lines and leaves only the points, only the end points of the lines. So it looks like a mixture of the bars effect and the analog lines effect. So have a look at that too if you're in. I mean, I don't really like it, but I mean, it looks interesting. Alright, composition number 2. Alright, in this composition I'm going to teach you how to make audio waveforms. Now, we make it the same way as before. We make a new solid, go into Effect, Generate, Audio Waveform, not Audio Spectrum. And you link the sound the same way, put it on a different layer, and then go into Audio layer and then select your audio layer. But what is the main difference between audio waveform and audio spectrum? The difference between audio waveform and spectrum is that spectrum is just one line which is reacting live to the audio. The line is moving. In the case of an audio waveform, the line is already made. Like you see an audio waveform from a pre-recorded file, the audio waveform is already made, right? And so the waveform does is it just basically displays it from left to right like a moving timeline, while audio spectrum is a live reaction. It is happening as the audio is going. So like audio spectrum, you can also change it from analog to digital to analog dots. That's just another interesting detail I thought I would add. Alright guys, so now I'm going to teach you how to animate particles according to sound. So these are stars which I've animated according to this sound. So let us have a look at what we are going to be making.
Gunshot.
Alright, so the track you heard was Gunshot by my best friend The Vamos. He has a YouTube channel. I'm going to drop an annotation to his YouTube channel on the end card of this video, so make sure you check him out. He's really awesome. He makes really interesting tracks which are worth hearing. Alright, apart from that, now let's see how you make this. Let's make a new composition and boom. So now I'm going to make two solids. One will be for the dark background and the other one will be for our particles. So now we'll go into Effect, Simulation, and CC Particle World. There it is. And now you should see that there is just a few particles just falling down just randomly. All these particles are in 3D space. So now we have grid guidelines, birth rate. Birth rate controls the number of particles which are formed. So this is the birth rate of the particles. So when you increase it, more particles are formed if you increase it at the same amount of time. So I like to keep it at full because it will react a lot better to the audio if it is at full. You will actually see those changes coming really nicely and really quickly if you set the birth rate to the max. So I would recommend setting birth rate to max. Longevity, leave it like that. Longevity basically means how long a particle lasts. It is best kept at the value which it comes with, 4. And producer, I wouldn't really bother fucking around with this. You can change it. You can change the position of the producer in X, Y, and Z space, but I usually like to keep all of them at the origin. Okay. This changes the radius. You can mess around with the radius like so, and you can create some really interesting effects, but I like to keep it at 0.025 for all. And you can really change this. Like, look at this. This is so interesting. I mean, you can play around with this. Do as you speak. This makes it a little bit more. This makes it make it have a little bit more depth. But I like to leave it just as it is. Now in physics, the animation type, this is explosive, so it's just exploding from a point like this. But what I like to do is twirl, either twirly, which makes it gives it a really interesting effect like this. Fire, which is just like, wow, this looks like real fire. And you can just play around with this and look and see what suits your track best. But what I like to do is jet sideways, and this looks really, you might be thinking, okay, this is nothing great, but what we are now going to do is we are going to set the gravity to 0 so it doesn't fall down, and it's now just a line of particles, and it looks so cool. Let's look at that is so cool. And now you can see, now that the gravity is 0, the particles don't fall, and velocity we can modify all that. So extra and extra angle, these things don't really matter. Now you can go into particle. First of all, you can see the particle type, the particle texture, where you can add your own textures. We can see the opacity, the max opacity of the particles, and in the opacity map we can see from birth to death which color. So when they are born in the center, in the origin, they can be of the color you specify, and when they die out, they can change their color. So for example, the birth color here is yellow and the death color here is red. So as the particles in the center are more yellowish and the particles towards the outside are more reddish. And here you can set the birth death color. So the birth color is the color in which the particles emerge from the origin, and the death color is, the farther they go away from the origin, the more they change into the death color. So near the producer, near the origin, they are yellow in color, and towards the end you see they have a reddish tinge. So we are going to modify this, and we are going to put like a nice chrome color which we have always been working with throughout this tutorial. So there you go. That looks really cool. That is so cool. Alright. We will need to play around with this later, so just hang around. Apart from that, I don't think we really need to do anything else apart from change the particle type. So we can change the particle type to a lot of different things: bubbles, faded spheres, tetrahedrons, tripolygons, or whatever you want. You can keep this whatever you want, but for now I like doing star. Stars are awesome because they end up making this natural waveform type line when you're finished animating with them. So wait for the end of the tutorial and you will turn this into this. So let's go. Now first of all, we need the audio clip which it will react to. This is again by The Vamos, one of my best friends. So let me select this and hit LL. Now what this does, wait for it to load. Yeah, now what this does, it will display the waveform of the audio spectrum which we have uploaded. So the waveform of the audio which we have uploaded. So this is the waveform of his song Gunshot. So we are going to work on this, and this is important because take a good look at this waveform because it's going to come in handy later. So now go right click on the clip, right click on the music you have imported, go to keyframe assistant and convert audio to keyframes. So there should be a new layer called audio amplitude, and if you drop down, go into effects, both channels, because it includes both channels, go to hit this slider and then go into this button called graph editor. Now you can see that the exact same waveform I showed you is now replicated in keyframes. These are actual values. So the waveform we saw earlier when I hit LL, that thing is now repeated over here, but now it is in keyframes, and now we can animate any kind of effect using this keyframe data. So now it has converted the audio amplitude into numbers, into data which we can apply to any effect, not just particles. We can apply it to anything we want. So now enough of this. Now we will need some scripts, and scripting is the behind the scenes of After Effects. After Effects works on scripts, but you can go in manually and modify them, and that is pretty cool. That's what we are going to use. So go into the solid which you have converted into particles. Go to CC particle world effect, which is in effects. Go to CC particle world, and now we are going to modify the particle size variation according to the audio. So go to size variation and hold the Alt key down and click on the stopwatch. Alt click. Now this should open up a script box, and this is how you add scripts. So you will see this swirl, and it is called an expression pick whip. Inserts reference to target. Basically, whenever you let's drag the size variation pick whip and drag it onto, let's open audio amplitude, both channel slider, and now let's go into our size variation, pick up the pick whip and drag it onto this both channel slider. So now what is going to happen is this value is equal to the value of the keyframes. So this is already reacting to audio. This thing is already reacting to audio, but you don't see anything because these numbers are too small. The size variation is too small. Size variation of 14 or 20 is not enough to be seen. So what we have to do is we have to bump it up. We have to bump it up once the audio crosses a certain level in order for the particles to jump out at us, to make it look more reactive. So this is the value given by the slider for every keyframe. Now let's give that value a variable. So x is equal to that variable, that value. So the variable x holds the value of the slider, of the amplitude. So now let's have a little if statement, that if x is greater than 50, if the decibel value is greater than 50, alright, and parenthesis, what happens if the value of x is greater than 50? What happens if the decibel is greater than 50? Then x is equal to x times 50. What this is doing is that x is equal to the slider value, and x is also equal to the size variation because we dragged the pick whip from the slide variation to the slider. So what it's doing is it's multiplying its own value by 50. So whenever the audio decibel rate goes above 50, then the value should just jump up at you like this. I think it's let's have a look at it. You can see it's already reacting to the audio a little bit, but to make it more obvious, let's animate the velocity. So if you observe here, as the beat dropped, the particles also became faster. So we need to animate the velocity of the particles to act to the audio. So I'm just going to copy the script and go into physics and then alt click velocity and paste it. So what happens is now the velocity is also going to react to the audio. And now you can see the particles have become very, very small, and they've become in a straight line. So that's what is supposed to happen. If the particles just collapse into a straight line here, it is what you want. So now go into the effect, go into the CC particle world effect, and go to birth size and bump up this value until you see this. Now bump this up quite a lot, so you can at least see this much. Okay, now our effect is complete. Let's see how it looks. I don't know why this happens. I don't know why this big cross comes in the middle. It happens for every shape, but then it looks really good. So as you can see now, that it's reacting to the audio, but there is something missing. Let's add a glow so it looks a lot better. Let's add one glow and let's add another on top of it so it looks even better. So now let's look at our final product. Okay, so that is how you animate particles. I mean, you can change this. You can change the particles to anything you want. So for example, let me change the particle to tripolygon. Now let's look at what happens. It's the same effect and it looks really cool. You can change the particles also. You can change whatever you want. So for example, I can put cubes and the cubes look really cool as well. Look at this. But I like star the most because it looks like an audio waveform. It looks more like an audio waveform this way. Alright guys, that will wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed and I really hope you learned something today. And if you did, please make sure to smash that like button. And if you really want to, you could subscribe to the channel because we have a lot of great videos down there. And I've been working on this video since the past 1 month. For those of you who have already subscribed, that's why I was inactive for the past 1 month. We have our exams coming up and it's really difficult for me to make videos. So I had a couple of videos planned, but this one turned out to be my priority because this was After Effects, something I loved. And I really wanted to make this really professional and really helpful to anybody who was new to this. Alright guys, that will wrap it up for this video, and until next time, don't be weird, be ethical.